Okay, and I'm going to screen share. I don't want iMovie. Get out of there. Okay, so today, and Victoria, you want to start without your guys?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We have a hard stop at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern, 11 Central. So I'm going to keep my eye on the clock. Okay, I think we got one of your people coming in now, Victoria.
Okay, let me see.
Hi, this is John Paul that just joined.
Hi, JP. This is Victoria.
Hi. Hi, Victoria. I'm sorry I'm late. I got a cancellation for the 11 o'clock meeting, so I apologize that I thought it was canceled.
No worries, no worries. I probably had multiple invites for you, so my bad for that one.
Okay, great guys. Okay, we're going to start now, and I'm going to start by asking Victoria and JP, and if anybody else from your side joins, to introduce yourself. And right after you introduce yourself in this particular order, we want you guys to try and describe what your brand is, if you have one. I know you do, but what the brand is, and if you can, describe the soul of your brand. And again, those are the things that we're trying to derive from this conversation, the who, what, why, where, and why of your office. And here's General Bray again. Okay, great. So again, Victoria, if you can start us off with a brief introduction of yourself, and then JP, and then again, your office's charge, the brand, the soul of the brand, and then maybe your why you're doing all the things that you're doing for our country.
Great. Can you hear me clearly?
We got you.
Okay, great. So good morning to you. I guess we're still on a good morning across the nation. My name is Victoria Bowens. I'm the Associate Director for Diversity Inclusion within the Department of Defense under the Diversity Management Operations Center. The role that I play is support the department's priorities to grow diverse talent across the nation. We have had challenges with growing talent with students of color into our mission critical occupations, such as, you know, science, technology, engineering, mathematics kind of career fields, and broader career fields other than just STEM. It could be also in human resources. It could be you know, combat operations kinds of communities. And so my goal is to work closely with the department, military departments. Although there's 5 military departments, which is the Coast Guard doesn't support us directly except in time of war. So I don't have direct oversight with the Coast Guard, but we certainly work in tandem with them to grow that talent. So within the military departments, they all have their own personal responsibilities. And that is that they're responsible for specifically to recruiting and attracting that talent. And also in addition to retaining that talent. Where we have been having probably most of our challenges is growing that talent in the other underserved communities, and I would say communities of color primarily, to include persons with disabilities. And so with that, we have a number of initiatives, and I won't go in depth because I want John Paul Cook, who runs this program, that we've collaborated with his office. So just to give you within context, when I talk about the military departments, they have responsibility for man training, equipping. So that means is that the level where I am is identify the policy, whether it's a mission, whether it's a vision, in support of that mission to come up with a strategy and how we're going to implement those initiatives that support the higher Secretary of Defense strategies. The services are responsible for implementing those strategies in order to get those individuals on the ground. What we do is try to find and expand our aperture to build partnerships and relationships with communities or organizations that gives us access to talent. And we do that in a number of ways. We look at it as those are within the academic career field, academic settings such as HBCUs, HSIs, and APZs, Hispanic serving institutions, and go after that talent, because we know, we've done the research, is that there is what I call it a center of gravity, is where can you get your biggest bang for your buck? And we go to the communities and universities that give us their biggest bang for a buck. So we start developing those relationships with those universities that allow us to do that. We know, we've done the research that says that 30-something% of STEM graduates comes from HBCUs. So if that is the case, then where should we continue to go? To the communities where they may be 1% or 1% or 0.5%. We're going to target, because money is limited. So my goal is to identify where there's possible partnerships, where there's possible relationships that can be gained by that. I'm assuming that all of you are familiar with opportunity zones. And in the opportunity zones, those are the communities that have a dearth, and we call those desert communities that don't have proper education programs, food deserts where there's not enough areas for them to get proper food for them to eat. And so we've kind of started working in those communities, and we realized that 50% of HBCUs reside in those opportunity zones. So that's a great opportunity, is to converge and leverage those universities that are in those zones. What we've done, we've created a program called STARBASE, and I'm going to turn it over to John Paul very quickly. Is STARBASE is we work collaboratively with Title I institutions or Title I schools, where they don't necessarily have the tools or the faculty or the money is available, or even the skill sets to help grow that talent from those students who come from those schools. And so specifically, we've joined with them in their junior ROTC programs. And our goal is to leverage those students who attend junior ROTC programs. Now, what's important is the reasoning why some folks go into junior ROTC programs, maybe behavioral things and that kind of thing. But to me, I think giving any student an opportunity to be able to advance themselves, regardless of how they got there, is what we want to leverage. So I understand that you may have a tool that will allow us to ensure that those students who go to those or participate, particularly those who may be STEM bound, that they have the foundation necessary to go to the next level. So as we build that next level and provide that community with those HBCUs or HSIs, and we bring ourselves into the mix, collectively, we can come up with a plan that's going to get those students interested. They've seen folks, they're familiar with the technology we have. We give them access, we make them more aware, and hopefully they'll come to us. And so at this juncture, I'm going to turn it over to John Paul Cook, because he's the one who kind of the owner who's come up with this program called STARBASE and a number of other programs that he has responsibility over. So JP, can I turn it over to you? Over.
Absolutely. Thank you, Victoria. Are my comms on?
Hear you loud and clear. Maybe you want to turn up just a little bit.
Perfect. Okay. Good morning, everybody. So as Victoria said, I'm John Paul Cook, and I'm Director of Outreach for the Department of Defense's Civil Military Programs. And civil military programs were started about 25 years ago, when the nation made the big step to transition from a conscription-based military to an all-volunteer force. We knew that a void would start developing between the American population and the serving population. And so the core mission of civil military programs is to bridge that civil military divide. And it was determined that one of the best ways to start doing that is to simultaneously reach young people that would be the future volunteers of the public service, whether it's uniform service or civil service, and their influencers. And the first program that was created was called STARBASE. And STARBASE was created up in Michigan by a widow of an Air Force veteran who was an educator and realized that especially the Air Force, but all the military services have an incredible STEM career field spectrum. And wouldn't it be great to get children to come and learn about career opportunities, especially in the STEM fields, by coming onto the base and interacting with service members and defense civilians and such. So about 25 years ago, Starbase was created. Senator Carl Levin was the champion of it. And a little funny anecdote, you'll always see Starbase is written all capitals because that was kind of pre-computer sorting and finding stuff. So what he wanted to be able to find Starbase in the NDAA very easily, and by having it all caps, it would help him find Starbase without without the glasses. So that's why you'll always see Starbase as a all caps title. So Congress was really good to us. They gave us a K-12 commission for Starbase, but resources being the reality, we've focused Starbase on fifth grade because it was determined that fifth grade is that magical sweet spot where children are still inquisitive and aspirational and malleable, but also sort of have an idea of what they want to do when they grow up. So for the most of the time to now, it's been primarily a fifth grade program. Over the last few years, though, we've started to explore venturing into Starbase 2.0, which builds on that fifth grade foundation into middle school. And now we're also gingerly starting out to try and see what can Starbase 3.0 become as we create an educational STEM education continuum that nurtures that seed that was planted in fifth grade and nurtures that curiosity through middle school to high school. And as Victoria says, we're looking to see how we can then partner with institutes of higher learning so that these children then not only get the motivation to graduate high school, but then can also not only envision themselves on a college campus, but hopefully have already experienced that college campus so that they know that they have a place there where they can thrive and just follow that career aspiration that was planted in fifth grade can now be realized on a college campus. So that's sort of where we're going. We're not there yet, but we are aspiring to head that way. And basically, there's about 70 Starbase academies across the United States. Um, they're hosted by any military activity can host a Starbase Academy. The Air Force remains the preponderance of them, and that's a combination of active component Air Force, Air Force Reserve, and Air National Guard. The last year, we've been focusing on trying to bring the Coast Guard into the program. The Army is starting to set up a couple of programs as well. But it's a slow effort, and one of the big handicaps is the Starbase program got zeroed out of the president's budget in 2014 as part of sequestration. And thank goodness we have a very strong Starbase caucus up on the Hill, and every year they take that zeroed out requirement and they fund us. But you can imagine how precarious it is to grow a program that you don't have any budget trajectory for or anything like that. So, and Congress is good. And I think, that really illustrates the importance and the effectiveness of the STARBASE program that we have enough congressional support that they take something that's zeroed out of the budget and they wedge it in each year because they know it's so important to their constituents to keep these programs rolling. So that's sort of the star of our civil military programs with relationship to what we're doing with Victoria. Second civil military program is our National Guard Youth Challenge program. And what we do there is we leverage the skills of our military members, although they're not in a military capacity when they're supporting this mission. And we have basically a boot camp environment where we take volunteer kids. They have to self-refer to the program, and they have to be between 16 and 18 years old, not attending high school regularly, and be either unemployed or underemployed, drug-free, and law enforcement clean, basically. They can't have any pending charges against them or anything like that. And we run them through a 6-month boot camp where we teach them responsible life habits and work on their physical fitness and their self-discipline and all that, while we close up their gaps in education. And we really strive to get them a high school diploma, vice a GED, so that when they move out into their workforce or post-secondary experience, it's transparent to future employers or academic institutions that they actually participated in this. They look like any kid that graduated, hopefully with a solid GPA. And we do have institutes of higher learning that if the kid has an aptitude to go that direction, to get them into continued learning. If basically high school is about as much as they're capable of, we have employers that understand the kid's situation and provide them a warm employment environment to kind of get them used to showing up for jobs regularly and just, good workforce performance. So that's that's the second of our core civil military programs. And then, as Victoria said, up at OSD, we have oversight of service level programs. And the junior ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Programs, are high school level programs that were created over 100 years ago. And that's the interesting thing. JROTC was founded in 1916 to instill a sense of citizenship and leadership and such to young people. And it's kind of ironic that here we are 100 years on, and that mission is still as critical today as it was 100 years ago. And we have about just under 500,000 kids in about 3,500 schools across the country who participate in our programs. And again, the last probably 5 years have been very exciting to it, because for the preponderance of that 100 years, uh, Congress was really zealously emphatic that junior ROTC not be an accessions program. They did not want us militarizing the youth of America to go off to war. So even though the cadets wore uniforms and we have retired service members as their instructors, it was totally focused on building the kids' leadership skills and their self-discipline and physical fitness and a lot of those attributes that, for the last, say, 70 years, especially, we've been struggling to instill in our youngsters, especially as we've been dealing with the reduced positive role models in communities. Our retired service members provide those positive role models and such. Well, again, it's a voluntary course. So how do you entice today's youth to get involved in it? Is by making it relevant to them. So the last few years, Congress, there's been a sense of Congress and a sense of the administrations to try and leverage JROTC to actually be workforce pipeline programs. And so what I do a lot is I work with the services to create pathway programs and internship opportunities. And really the most exciting one, because it's there, we just rolled out in September, and that is the JROTC has its own career technical education certificate for leadership and employability. And we just rolled it out in September, and we're pushing out and asking employers and institutes of higher learning to start looking for this CTE on their applicants, and actually eliciting this as part of the application process, because this shows that this kid has the moxie that we're looking for. They've demonstrated that they have the basic leadership skills, and they're going to make a really great employee. And so that's going to be the so what for why kids join JROTC, is to kind of get that. And then for those kids who are showing a propensity for STEM, we're coming up with some wonderful STEM opportunities. The Air Force is really leading the way. They have Flight Academy, and imagine being a junior in high school, getting selected for the Flight Academy, and you go to a aviation college and spend a summer session there, pick up 3 to 6 college credits at an aviation university, and then you get to go to the Air Force Flight Training Center and you pick up your private pilot's license, and then you go back for your senior year of high school. Hey, junior, what did you do over the summer? Oh, let me tell you what I did over the summer, right? And talk about a motivated, pumped up kid. And we're doing that for cyber. I've been approached to see if we can replicate it for the engineering field. I mean, it is just on fire. And so we're working on really creating these programs that provide both an academic credential and a trade certificate, so that the kid has a solid toolbox going into the workforce or to higher education. And coming out with that JROTC CTE and then this technical one, I think we're going to make JROTC one of the most coveted clubs in the secondary school world as this moves forward. So that's kind of, I know it's more than the bumper sticker you were perhaps looking for, but you see, we have these 3 amazing programs, and it's just so exciting to see the potential here and try and bring them to the next level. So with that, I'll go back on mute and pending any questions.
Hey, Kevin, before we go, I know that probably your team is going to have lots of questions for you or for us. I just want to go back to the ask and why, what I heard, and I can't remember who briefed it before. I wasn't sure if it was John or Rick Presley had shared that you have, that we're a possible partnership in this, is that we want to get these students prepared and ready to graduate. And so you had something, and so JP, you're coming in, we've been having a couple of conversations. I was really intrigued with the program that they have in place, that they can measure either the efficacy of the training or to ensure these students are ready and prepared to go to the next level, if you will. And there's a way to kind of help the schools along the way. And General Bray, under the Boyle Heights program that we had, that you chartered, that's kind of the thing that we're looking for. How is there a tool or mechanism that we can use to leverage to continue to expand this capability of students to leave there prepared academically? We're going to take care of the leadership, but all of that together. And I think that's where I think it's a certain opportunity to collaborate and integrate. So I know we've only got a few minutes. I know you've got a broader agenda, but I think if we could focus on that and say, it's, where are there opportunities and how can we learn more? And certainly from the fact that, JP owns a program, what's the best way to kind of integrate this type of a capability? Over.
Wow. Well, Victoria, I want to make sure that we can adjust the agenda to deal with the next 25 minutes in a way that we can answer the opportunity to hear about ways to service STARBASE, because I'm blown away. I just heard about it for the first time, and I've been researching you guys for almost 11 years. So I don't know where I've been. So with that, I want to turn it over to General Bray and get your response and comments about the way ahead, General Bray.
First of all, I feel like JP was a setup man for me in a couple of ways. One is, first of all, thank you. You probably can't see my shirt, but I'll tilt it down. I'm actually wearing my leadership shirt from JRTC because I still advocate for it. I spent 3.5 years, in fact, working with then Captain Bowens and the naval team, doing a lot of work across this country to celebrate, to advocate for and leverage. And regionally and here in North Carolina, I still leverage it. Now, here's how it segues to what I'm going to really talk about. And if you could pop up those 2 slides, the Venn diagram very, very briefly. First of all, at the very top of this diagram, Dakar was involved in an awful lot of areas. And specifically, since before I took my uniform off in 2013, I spent 4.5 years working with Dakar and Kevin, trying to advocate for and move the needle on what this nation needed. The goal was to try to get representation in our officer corps specifically at the time. And as Victoria had mentioned earlier, Mrs. Bowen, I don't know if I can get to call you by your first name.
You call my friend. I think, sir, you've earned that right to do that.
The goal was to try to get more of our nation involved in the higher levels of a military that more than half of us don't even wear a uniform. People don't know that. And so how do you get them there? Well, you got to, first of all, increase the pool. And so you can get the best of people at the beginning. And remember, there's a competition that happens because your best also going to be sought by the outside world. But you got to get them to be committed to go through the pipeline to stay the course to be there. And it was a subtlety that Victoria had pointed out, and she talked about combat arms. I don't know if y'all caught that or not, because that's who leads. It's the fighter pilot that leads the Air Force. He got to at least he or she most often has to be a pilot to be in that, to get to the top. He or she needs to be in the combat arms in the other branches to lead them. And I say has to be, but the reality is there are some outliers. But the preponderance are going to come from those who represent the core value of the services. But most of them can't see, most people can't see how that translates to an other job. So you got to get them to weather the storm, and then you got to let them see that to be the leader of the military, why does an airborne ranger have to lead the Army? Because everybody thinks, well, he has no other skills. He or she has no other skills, but they don't realize most of those guys actually have other kinds of degrees that will get them through that pipeline. And even at the very least, they will be introduced to every one of them. Every single one of them will be at least to the scientific method of thought process. Every single leader. And so if you get them with a STEM background, it becomes innate in how they think. Even if they decide with a electrical engineering degree that they want to go out and break things and kill people, they will be able to leverage that tool, especially as they get further along in the pathway. But at the very beginning, if you look at this diagram, it is a belief that you belong. There's that circle that Dakar was talking about, was trying to initially talking about how do we instill and develop character. Character usually becomes with the fact that you belong to this nation. I'm going to say something very unpolitically correct. Colin Kaepernick had it absolutely wrong. I'm going to say that again. And here's why. His kneeling had nothing to do with it, or his sitting down, nothing to do with it. In fact, every service member supports his right to do that. Here's where he failed. Those stripes, the very first blood dropped in 1770 for this nation, the very first line of this belonged to Crispus Attucks, an African American. The Constitution, the dream of our nation, begins with the Constitution. And I'm gonna get up on soapbox here in a few moments, but had he went on Tuesday and told had he led and told all of his teammates from across the NFL, Tuesday we're going to the nation's capital, guys. and we're all going to talk about why this flag and why that check that was written, that was articulated by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was being stamped insufficient funds. He would have stopped anybody from trying to sever his ideas and thoughts from the nation. That's where he got it wrong, because the blood and treasure of every person, especially on this panel, has been a commitment to this nation, warts and all, to the vision of that document. So at the very top, it is making sure that every child knows he belongs. There's a National Society of Black Engineers gentleman and I'm spazzing on his name for a second here, but you help me out. You'll think of it, Victoria. But anyhow, one of the things that he was an electrical engineer, and when he was struggling through quantum mechanics, the reason why he struggled through that program is because he thought he was breaking new ground as an engineer. So it's important that we spend time developing our kids and making sure that first of all, it's not new. You're not the first person going through the door. You're not the person that has to fight that fight because it's been fought for you. And by the way, your blood's already vested in this nation. And we have to make that sure they understand that. I had a gentleman from New York. He was in ROTC at Hampton University. He was saying, well, sir, from New York, and not very many of us, right, sir, we, joined the military. We don't really have a history of being in the military. I said, you ever heard of the Harlem Hellfighters? He did not know. He did not know that his heritage, in fact, New Yorkers and the Harlem Hellfighters, with their tradition, by the way, and was taught at West Point that no African Americans up until the 70s had been in the combat arms. So you have to you got to break through these barriers of one, inferiority or misinformation, so that kids walk through the door boldly, not just walking up to the door and expecting to see if they got a fight to go through. So that's the first part of what Dakar was trying to do, was get that through and have that established. There's a movie called Love of Liberty that was produced in 2008 that every service has the right to, because the Army led the effort to get that thing developed, and it is historically correct, stamped on by the Air Force and the Army's historical departments, to give a broader sense of understanding. Dakar has right to it because Kevin and I worked to make sure it's right, and we took it through their departments and the Smithsonian to make sure that it was accurate in its capture of history as it goes forward. We had to make sure that kids understood the tool of social media and making sure that's there. And by the way, history, generally speaking, has the words correct. The pictures are what's wrong. And the reason why the pictures are wrong is because when my daughter was a young child, I took her to St. Mary's by the Sea, a Catholic school, and we were considering going to school there when she was in first grade. I walked down the hallway, and there were pictures of Christ and Mary along the hallway that the kids had done. Every picture had Jesus and Mary in at least white. Some were blonde, most were blue-eyed. Children have to see themselves. And so it's important that we, in this new age of visual media, we've got to put people in front of, behind, and telling the story correctly. The oldest picture right now of a Christ is the Coptic Christ that's from 500 plus years, and it is in Egypt. It is now being refuted because people don't like the fact that he looks like us. He is not pale. It makes them, it upsets some people. And if you listen to Fox News and you'll hear that, what was that woman's laugh 2 years ago? She said, get over it. And I said, no, we need to teach history accurately. A Santa Claus is Saint Nicholas. He's from Turkey. We have to do these kinds of things, and it has nothing to do with anything except instilling into kids. One, you have to now capture on the narrative. And to do that, you better be able to get behind the camera, articulate the message, and capture it accurately. Don't lie about it. Don't try to make everything black or Latino, but make it whatever it correctly is. So you instill the sense of pride. And then, oh, by the way, choose your methodology. You know, Leonardo da Vinci was a great artist, but he was also a great inventor, because art creates innovation, creates the mind that makes the mind want to wander, wants to dream, wants to go beyond the barriers of the known. But STEM teaches you how to take that problem and turn that problem or that wish or dream into a reality. And so what we have to do is we got to grab those children and then figure out where that separation is. Normally the separation in science isn't some fantastic age of why they separate. You know what it is. If I asked you all right now, why is that period in time the time they separate? Here's what it is. And this is now, I hate to say, it took me 55 years before I sorted it out. But we started telling kids to go home and bring things back, have to buy some supplies. I'm an art major, by the way. And I went from fine arts to art ed. Why? Because I had to buy supplies. I didn't have the funds for it. And then made history a minor because it requires less supplies. The mind still questions. And by the way, the Army's infinite wisdom, I led the Army's experimentation effort for 3.5 years as an art major. I laugh about that, but ironically, the joint community came back to me. Thank you. I got you, Kevin. The joint community also reached back to me and by the way, asked me to lead them as well. And so we took the lead in making that come to pass, because one, I know how to dream. Secondly, I know how to find the talent. And my brother, by the way, was a physicist. So it helped. But this is what we have to do with our children. We've got to take them forward. And the Venn diagram that you saw says all of these things are not disparate. They are interconnected. And it's all about instilling in our kids the opportunities that the world provides. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Ray. That's powerful. So Victoria, we're going to not have enough time to do much more than a lightning round of introductions for some of the people that I definitely want to make sure that you hear from. In this particular order, I'm going to ask Terrence Mayfield, can you introduce yourself? And no more than maybe 60 minutes to kind of boil down what we can do to take a part 2 of this conversation, because we're going to have to try to book another session with Victoria.
Good morning. Thank you for having me all on. Terrence Mayfield out of Los Angeles. I am just blown away with what I learned this morning about what you do. I think that the solution is the opportunity zones. If you are to go into the opportunity zones, when I leave this call, I'm going to be talking to the president of an HBCU. By creating an opportunity fund, you're able to get them from elementary school all the way through college. And we can create a dynamic solution that can destroy some stereotypes and we can destroy some injustices. And let me give you an example, and I'll be off in 10 seconds. Because we can tie opportunity zones to housing, we can have your department with the young people that are participating in the program, their parents can have an opportunity to become homeowners because they're participating in the opportunity zone and the opportunity fund. Secondarily, what happens that is amazing is that because of some corporate partnerships, we can bring corporations in to provide jobs for the parents in the tech space. So what we're doing is replicating with the children. We bring the parents in, teach them tech. Their children are learning it at the same time, but the parents are learning it to get a job short term, 6 to 9 weeks. Then the children are learning it long term, but the conversation at their home now is supported because their parents can help them because they have a tech background in a very simplistic view. And oh, by the way, because you're participating, we're going to put you in a home ownership program because we have the opportunity zone, and it allows us with new market tax credits to do affordable housing that couldn't be done before because we control that with the fund. I'm out.
Wow, thank you, Terrence. And again, this is lightning round, guys. I'm going to ask Lemur Walker to give us a real, again, quick overview of your what you've heard and what you can possibly contribute for our next session. Lemur?
Sure. Yeah, it was really awesome to hear you, Victoria, Mr. Cook, and always General Bray kind of give us an overview here. A couple of things jumped out at me, which is you've run this program brilliantly for quite a while now. It would be great to surface some of the successes so that, as General Bray said, people can see themselves. And that literally can be a campaign in and of itself. You know, I'm coming from the background of kind of marketing and advertising and digital product builds. So when I think about how people would get attracted to do what Terrence was just saying, the ability to kind of see the spectrum of possibility of what happens to me once I come in and out of programs that are being offered is excellence. And so how do we really kind of make that really engaging for people? So my current occupation is co-founder with Valence. I think we've talked a few times about that over the last couple of years, as well as some more recent developments with a company out of Switzerland called Origin. And our focus there is working with documenting and creating really high value artifacts in the metaverse. So we're working with blockchain, a new protocol there called Internet Computer, and there's a bunch of tech gobbledygook I'll spare you right now, but there's some really great things that come with that arena that Kevin will be talking with you more about, but in particular how people feel like they have equity and engagement through some of those systems that are quite streamlined in how they can be set up. So that's me in a nutshell there, but I'm really curious to talk more with you about how to surface some of your successful alumni and to have them really kind of be the lens that the kids can see themselves in. Thank you.
Okay, great. If someone can mute their mic who may have some background noise. Lightning round again. I'm going to go to Rick Presley to kind of pivot on what Lemur just said about tech tools and some opportunities to, again, bring some solutions to some of the problems that DoD may be having in reaching and engaging and activating these students. Rick?
Thank you, Kevin. I pretty excited about what I'm hearing. I just want to ask everyone a question wouldn't it be wonderful if you could guarantee 100% completion of the programs that you're allowing these children or university students to engage in? If you could have 100% competency of the material that you're trying to convey. And we can do that. We've done that for years, and we did it based on my 4th grade teacher. Think about this. Can anyone in the group raise their hand and say that they had a teacher that had 100% straight A students? And I bet I'm the only one that's going to be able to do that, because my 4th grade teacher put a program in place that she was there. She took it. Her responsibility was to teach the curriculum that had been put in front of the students. She didn't care whether you were white, black, purple, whatever. Okay. Her responsibility was to make sure that you understood that content. And if she gave you a test or a task and it wasn't completed to 100% competency, you got to do it again and again and again and again. Some people didn't agree with it, but that teacher was the most successful teacher that I've ever seen, because she delivered the content to the student and the student understood it. And there was a measuring stick that was able to measure the effectiveness of that delivery system. So we replicated that to several companies. One of them was the fastest growing company in American business history. At the time, the company name was Excel Telecommunications. We employed that training system, increased the customer versus rep ratio. Kevin and I have talked for hours on this. We could take that same system into, I'm sure you guys are hearing a lot about the metaverse. we can take that into a 3D environment. You want to capture the imagination of the children or younger groups, try to do it with a whiteboard. See how much response you get. Put them in a virtual world where they're actually not in front of or behind of, but immersed in the content that you're trying to convey to them. That guarantees several things. It allows the content to be delivered, understood, and measured for the success rate that you're trying to accomplish. Kevin, I don't want to take up a lot of time, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I think what we have is an opportunity to, again, create a pilot and some way to give Victoria a chance to make the ask, something that can apply to something that they can actually evaluate. So we're going to try and get that done. A couple more people before we have to break contact. Terrence Coles, can you give us 60 seconds?
Absolutely. Well, thank you all. Terrence Coles. So just a couple of things based on what folks have said. One, from Virginia, proud son of educators who integrated the school system within Virginia, participated in early engineering programs from the age of 13 at Howard University, University of Maryland, Georgia Tech. Those things got me to Virginia Tech to study engineering. Figured out I wasn't going to be an engineer, but I'm a technologist and business person and a media producer. And really my goal here is to help with what General Bray was speaking about bringing those stories and things to life for the students. Because I can tell you, seeing those examples are the things that help me, and connecting to my history. I connect to Virginia 1609, right? And I'm not giving up this country for anybody. And you can try to usurp the flag, but that's mine as much as anybody else's. And the point being, I am in technology, I am in media, I have opportunities as a mentor, but most importantly, I want to help to tell the stories that are going to connect the dots that we're speaking about. And so my role here has been that, producer behind the camera, but also a mentor to show folks what's possible. Very much involved in AI, metaverse, technology across the board, and happy to add any of that to the pie. But I think my role here is to help with the stories. And we have a model and a template to put stories together that will engage students, to show them the initial point of connection and why they should be connected and why they should be excited about the opportunities that are coming. So I'll stop there, but happy to be a part of this.
Okay, great. And Victoria, I think we've got 2 minutes left. We beg you for another opportunity to kind of create a pilot so that we can look at an opportunity to test the veracity of something that you can focus on, that we can deploy to either STARBASE or to another system that can drill down to some of your needs. So please take us out with any questions, suggestions, or comments for us to pivot on.
So first I want to hear a comment from JP. That he's the owner of the program. So JP, based upon just kind of being able to leverage to partner with this group, if they can come up with a pilot that comes up with a certainty for graduation, which is our ultimate goal, to get these students to the next level. Does this sound like something that would be of interest to you? We certainly can have further conversations on this offline.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been a very exciting half hour, and General Gordon Bray, thank you so much for those strong words, and especially as an Army guy, they resonated strong. I think, one of the things too, let me leave this seed with you. The Starbase Academies, many of them have 501c3 boosters that private enterprise can adopt a Starbase Academy and do amazing things through these nonprofits. So that could be a really quick way to bring ideas to bear without having to go through a lot of bureaucracies with institutes of higher learning and stuff like that. I'm going to go way out on a limb real quick, and I'll say it once quick, but we're not allowed to lobby. But if anybody has any way to inform Congress that maybe junior ROTC ought to have a caucus like our STARBASE and our National Guard Youth Challenge programs, because JROTC doesn't have a lot of love up on the Hill. And so anybody who has some ears up there that could listen, that would be wonderful. And because what we'd love to do is get where JROTC units can have nonprofits. Think about the STEM opportunities we could bring to bear on JROTC units if they could have a nonprofit booster club, like a sports booster or something like that, to channel ideas and resources to them. So this is very exciting. I look forward to any opportunities to continue these dialogues. I will say that I'm just the outreach person on them, and the JROTC belongs to the services, but I'm one heck of a great amplifier and would love to carry the water and see where we can bring some good people with great ideas together and make things happen. So hooah.
Absolutely. So Kevin, this is where I think our next steps would be is, maybe spend a little bit more time on the tool that Rick is talking about. Kind of give us, what is this tool? I mean, we talked about it conceptually, and so I'm a visual person. So that's part of I know who I am. I can talk about it until I see it. And I really can't visualize that. So it'd be great to kind of understand what this concept is and how it works and how it can be utilized in what we just shared with you. So again, STARBASE is a I don't want to say a finite program that's been developed, but certainly there can be tentacles outside of it that builds towards it that can be connected and integrated in the broader sense of the STARBASE. And so as Terrence has talked about, from the standpoint of where you are leveraging within those opportunity zones right now, then it's just a matter of we can share with you where those 50 STARBASE programs are with the schools, and then say, hey, if we're going to pilot that, what does that look like? What does it entail? Who needs to be involved? All the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, and why. That is something that certainly that we would like to see. And if you can share something that with us and kind of give us a kind of a concept of what that is, and then we can have and talk about that more in depth in our next meeting. Now, as far as taking talk about our next meeting, we know it's a holiday, so mid-January might be a good time for us to connect again. Give us some more time to kind of think through it, but at least from the standpoint, I think I'm feeling really good about, particularly conceptually, the integration from that. And then I know that the other point is, figure out how we tell the stories. I'm still intrigued about the storytelling, but right now I want to work on, building capacity, and then go from there. I'm hearing feedback, so I hope you guys aren't hearing the same feedback that I'm hearing on my phone.
Well, great, guys. Yeah, we're over Victoria, but I think we'll canvass the group and see if we can come back with something that we.
Yeah. This is John Paul. I've got. Yeah,
John Paul.
I got one quick alibi.
Go ahead, sir.
No, you're just hearing the feedback, JP. Just keep going.
Yeah, I got one quick alibi, and we have to remember our programs are invited into the schools by the school districts. And so, oh, okay. And so that we have to clear everything with the school districts, because at the end of the day, if the school district doesn't like one of our ideas, they'll kick our JROTC program out of the school. And if they don't like what we're trying to do with STARBASE, they're not going to send their kids to the STARBASE Academy. So everything has to be, at the end of the day, the school district is our client.
Absolutely. We know
And
those.
one thing, Kevin, I'd like to mention, we did not mention on this call. We are also the carrier of HBCU League Pass, which has direct access right into over 100 HBCUs. So we can discuss that at a later date as well.
Absolutely. Okay, so Victoria, here's what we're going to do is we're going to send back something that allows us to say this is what we've heard, and then we're going to pitch you on an activity for Black History Month. This is what we think we've cooked up that we've done before. So when we meet again, you give us a date, we'll go over that proposal, and again, what we've heard and what we think we can do, and then how it can be tested out and distributed to all the STARBASE academies, all the HBCUs, and everybody else in your universe. Okay?
Okay, so I want to make sure, because I think you pivoted to something else. So is that separate from this conversation, the history, Black History Month and the STARBASE program? So I want to make sure I'm hearing that.
Yeah, I think we can do some integration of what we can do to create an activity that will involve the STARBASE academies, use the tool that Rick mentioned, and be able to look at the efficacy of everything as a pilot.
I'm gonna be fair in knowing the timeline you're operating off of, and I'll be very quick. Victoria, it really means that you're gonna have to go to the drawing board real fast. Look at what's available, and I think there's gonna need to be at least an offline discussion between at very minimum you, Kevin, and Rick, and JP, and I think what happens after 1 November, 4 January. So I think you've got to operate inside that space, come back, see what resources can be applied, and then come back and say, like, to target something. I think for you, if you're going to be involved, at very best, it's going to be toward the end of February.
Yeah,
If you
we need
do
all the
something.
time. Yeah, we need all the time we can get. So the end of February.
That's kind of what I'm suggesting to you. And by the way, if it helps you to bifurcate the discussion, I think that might be something you need to do. Okay,
Absolutely.
I'm going to pull back.
Okay, so Victoria, if we can talk offline before mid-January about the way ahead, I'd love to see if we can boil down everything to something that we can bring back to the group, maybe mid-January. But yeah, we do need that intermediary step to get to January. Okay, so
that's fine. I just want to put some realism because I'm going on vacation, and so if you want to be with me, I know hopefully y'all taking vacation too. So put some realism there as well.
I'll throw out some times when we can talk with maybe UIJP and anybody else that can be part of the gilding of something we can bring back to the group. Okay,
that sounds great. Sounds wonderful.
What's a vacation?
One I hope to have.
JP, I like your thoughts. In 80 seconds, we just say, what happens at Friday at 5 o'clock? Only 2 more working days till Monday.
Yes, 48 hours to the next day.
Yeah.
It's about busting your bubble.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank everybody for their time and energy.
Thank you. Happy holidays to you.
Good. All right,
Good
thank
to
you guys.
see you, Shoni. I see you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Take
JP.
it easy, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Victoria, share my contact information if,
Thank you.
yeah.
I sure will.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kev.
All right,
Talk to you later,
guys.
bud.
All
God
right,
bless.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.